Welcome back to the channel. This is Wes. I don't know what's more depressing. The news yesterday that Tidney Howard is going to be the new writer on Harley Quinn. So basically it's status quo. Move the bad writers around between the titles. Nothing really is going to change at DC Comics. Or the preview for Tim Drake Robin #1 we got this week. This is the preview. This is what's supposed to. This is the marketing material. It's supposed to bring people into the comic book shop. Go support your local comic book shop, buy the comic book. And this is the preview that they've decided to deliver us. It generated such amazing headlines, such as DC shares a heartwarming update about Tim Drake's love life. My goodness, I guess we were just all on pins and needles about that one. Tim Drake leads a very different life in the new Robin series. Now, that one's certainly a little bit more ambiguous, but you can kind of see where they're going. And maybe the best thing of all, Tim Drake Robin #1. Tim and Bernard make things official. DC Comics fans across the globe have just been sitting there going, are they going to make it official? Like, when are DC Comics going to make Tim Drake and Bernard a real thing? When are they finally going to consider themselves boyfriend and boyfriend? Well, thankfully, it's probably going to happen in the very early entries of the series. The art is bad. The writing is going to be worse. Tim Drake Robin #1 takes the hero on a brand new adventure, living independently of the Bat family in a houseboat he chose himself. Written by Meghan Fitzmartin and drawn by Riley Rossmo. Obviously, those are the big issues with this comic book series. Number one, the writer, Meghan Fitzmartin, who shoehorned Tim Drake into this story during this Batman Urban Legends crap, pretty much has been rejected at every single turn. They've tried to make this thing happen, and nobody's accepted it. And then we have the terrible page. I think everyone knows it by now. Tim Drake introduces Stephanie Brown, who he's been in a romantic relationship with for years upon years. People know this relationship. She introduces him to a Bernard, and she says, this is the best day ever. The best day of her life was seeing the man of her dreams, Tim Drake, with his boyfriend. She was just so happy. That's who Meghan Fitzmartin is as a writer. They released the Tim Drake Pride special that kind of consolidated all that, and we got that extra story with that page. And guess what? It didn't sell. Shockingly. And this comic book right here is a DOA. I can tell you already, there's no way this thing sits inside the top 100 after 2 or 3 issues. Worse yet, Riley Rossmo, as far as all the artists at DC Comics, as a superhero artist, is probably the worst one that they have. He was with Stephanie Phillips before on Harley Quinn. It was atrocious. The story was bad, but somehow the art was worse. In this case, I don't think Riley Rossmo's art will be able to touch Meghan Fitzmartin's terrible comic book storytelling, but the art is just trash. There's no other way to say it. There's no nice way to talk about Riley Rossmo's art when it comes to DC Comics. His art has a place on the independent comic scene, perhaps like on horror books and stuff like that, maybe teen coming of age stories, but in superhero comics, it's so out of place. I guess we could thank DC Comics for at least doing a quarantine on their worst creators and putting them together. In a new preview released by DC, Tim goes on a date with his boyfriend, although they haven't officially labeled things, of 6 months, Bernard. And the two have a brief interaction with some of Tim's new neighbors. Like, the only thing that they're marketing the book on is the relationship between Tim and Bernard. How many asses in seats is that relationship really going to put? Fans of Tim Drake don't like Bernard. They like Tim Drake with Stephanie Brown. Their relationship never really ended. And the fact that he just kind of, I don't know, left her, and then the next time she saw him, he's like, here's my boyfriend, and she was so happy, left a bad taste in their mouths. This is not a good marketing campaign. I understand they want to commit to the bit, but this is going to blow up in their face spectacularly. There's no way this preview that they're putting out with all these different comic book news media outlets is going to draw one more sale for the series. If anything, maybe readers that were going to try it out finally see Riley Rossmo's art for the first time. Maybe they hadn't seen it, and they go, oh, I'm not spending $5 on that because it's so bad. Overall, the Tim Drake Robin #1 preview shows a sweet series of moments, though it seems unlikely the story will continue to trend that way. In the official description of the title from DC, the publisher teases a mysterious villain who's been watching Robin from afar, and everyone he loves is in danger. If Tim wants to continue having nice dates with Bernard, he'll have to figure out who's hunting him ASAP. When you put out your marketing material for the first Tim Drake solo series we've seen in years upon years, and the best thing your partners in the shill media can come up with is, if Tim wants to go on more sweet dates with Bernard, he better find out who the villain is. That's the best they could come up with to hope to actually sell this comic book to your customer. That tells you just how screwed over DC Comics are and what a bad mistake they've done putting Meghan Fitzmartin and Riley Rossmo on this book. You don't believe me? Go to the CBR message boards. There's actually a hilarious thread. They put this preview in there and people just automatically started trashing it. And these are fans of CBR, likely people that are more amenable to this type of storytelling, this story with Tim Drake, and they hated it too. Nobody wants to read this comic book. And guess what? The art really stands out to a lot of these readers that maybe hadn't seen Riley Rossmo in the past. Bernard looks surprisingly effeminate in that first page. Absolutely he does. So I guess we're continuing with this idea that what was holding Tim back from being happy and self-assured was embracing being bisexual and loving a guy. Only now can Tim truly be happy. Exactly. It's not embracing the history of the character. This stuff comes out of nowhere and everyone notices it. Wow, she's really ignoring a lot of his relationship with Stephanie and throwing shade at it. Once again telling us that Bernard is so great and better than what he had before, with Tim being in over his heels for him without showing us why exactly in the first few pages, while their relationship still barely exists via the flawed straight romance to perfect gay romance. This feels like slash fic with cute boy love stuff. Absolutely it does. You can tell she's always hated Tim stuff. I don't think she ever really liked DC Comics. I don't think that she actually hates the relationship. I just don't think that she likes DC Comics. They said you can write Tim Drake, and she said, well, I want to make one character gay. So he ended up getting the treatment. Another responder, what the hell is this? That is the perfect question. That is what we're all asking right now. Another responder, come on, DC. This is what you can do for a Tim Drake new book after so long, really. Exactly. We all expected more. We actually expected a Tim Drake comic book. Another commenter, sorry, it's a feeling, but I don't see much future for this comic. Absolutely. This thing is going to die immediately. DC Comics know this, yet they're releasing it anyway. Next commenter, wow, the art here is awful. I love Tim. I didn't mind the writer in the Urban Legends story, but I'm not spending money on a book that looks like this. A ton of Harley Quinn fans already came to this conclusion. I don't know why this guy is on this book, but if you're going to put him somewhere, I guess Tim Drake Robin makes sense. The last comment I'll cover, good luck, Tim fans. You're going to need it. Absolutely. If you're friends with a Tim Drake Robin fan, give him a hug. Say, listen, it'll get better. Like, I'm sorry this happened, but this is going nowhere. The one good thing is it won't last. This is a miniseries that just hasn't been announced yet. This thing will last 4 or 5 issues. It'll go away, and then DC Comics hopefully don't forget about Tim Drake Robin for the rest of his career. Obviously, we are seeing the character here and there, specifically in Chip Zdarsky's Batman run. So at least we're getting some Tim Drake that feels like Tim Drake in a few places, but there's a good chance he gets lost in the shuffle after this series, which is going to bottom out almost immediately. They're not going to make any money off of this, and Tim Drake fans might have to wait another 10, 15, 20 years before they get a series. But Meghan Fitzmartin is just a train wreck at DC Comics. I don't know the lady personally. She might be the nicest person in the world, but she is just a bad comic book writer. You need to watch this video I made about Dark Crisis Young Justice #2, and you'll see Meghan Fitzmartin likely doesn't hate you and I. She just hates DC Comics, the characters, and the history of all of them for like the last 20, 30 years, specifically the 90s. Definitely check this out if you want some more information about Meghan Fitzmartin and who she really is. Also, if you can't see it there, there's a link in the video description.